Good afternoon, all. Fall of Afghanistan has created a historical scene, both in national and international context. It might only be a false claim to say that the current situation could be fixed in the coming weeks or even months. Considering this, there is one main mandate for all of us, those who cannot fight on the ground to save Afghanistan and millions of its citizens. And that is to make sure that the desire of Afghanistan citizens, specifically women, and their situation is well reflected here in West. It is to make sure that these desires are on the table of policymakers, those who can decide for the future of the girls in the north of Afghanistan, or those on the West, the ones that haven't been in school for months and has no access to their fundamental rights. The rise of the Taliban to power has pushed the country backwards for years. The human rights situation is at an all-time low, and hundreds of human and war crimes are being committed every day. The Taliban are inherently a regime that violates human rights. Within a few months of its rules, the group has enforced primitive laws against women and violated even the most basic human rights. Women have been deprived of the right to education, the right to work, to move freely, and even to show their faces. Forced migration, the disappearance of individuals, and actions against the Hazara and Tajik communities, which is not only a violation of human rights, but also a case of genocide and violation of the laws of war, is being committed by Taliban on a daily basis. Hundreds of people have reportedly been detained, tortured, and killed by the Taliban in Panjshir and Andrab in the recent weeks. One thing to keep in mind is that the collection of information before making any decision about Afghanistan must be independently and transparently. The ceremonial meetings of foreign officials and ambassadors with Taliban officials, who are themselves the main culprits of human rights violation of the Afghanistan citizens, will not help the Afghanistan people and will be only sufficient for the propaganda use of international media. Many foreign countries ransom the Taliban in their official policies, yet the fact that representatives of the Taliban or members of the Haqqani network that planned the suicide attacks in Afghanistan can still travel to a European country could be a great shame for a free European society that claims to respect human values. Western taxpayers have the right to ask their government, what has been the result of 20 years of presence and the sacrifice of thousands of foreign troops, tens of thousands of Afghanistan soldiers, and tens of thousands of Afghanistan civilians? The rule of a terrorist group over the whole country? The resurgence of the international terrorist group that have safely come to power in Afghanistan and can plan and facilitate a new 9/11 attack in the United States, Paris, Amsterdam, or Berlin at any time? Their laws are so primitive and inhuman that they have deprived women of their rights to leave home alone, or imagine that in the 21st century they have closed schools for the girls. Women have no right to work. Such inhuman laws have not been implemented anywhere else in the world. But the international community declares every day that it hopes the same group will respect human rights. I ask the citizens of NATO member countries, the blood of your soldiers, the capital of your countries, the tax money that you pay, the lives of hundreds of thousands of Afghanistan citizens, and 20 years of time were lost for this? to one day express the hope that a terrorist group will respect human rights? The more we ignore the reality of the Taliban as a group opposed to human values, human rights, anti-women, and anti-education and culture, the more golden time we give to terrorist groups to safely lay the ground for the promotion of religious extremism and to repeat deadly terrorist attacks that killed innocent people in Afghanistan for the last 20 years, this time in European capitals. My message and the message of the people of Afghanistan to all European citizens is that do not ignore the rule of terrorists in Afghanistan. If Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought the war to the gates of Europe, ignoring the safe haven of terrorists in Afghanistan will bring violent religious radicalism to every single street of Europe. To summarize what Network of Afghanistan Diaspora in Europe does, it is to bring all these realities, facts, and voices in the European Union table, to advocate for the rights of millions of Afghanistan citizens who are deprived of their fundamental human rights and driven into poverty, and to advocate for more humanitarian aid for Afghanistan, as well as fair distribution. NADU acts as a hub to unify the efforts of Afghanistan diaspora organizations at the European level.